So today we're taking a look at the Snow Peak Jikaro Firing Table, and this thing essentially creates a full-on fireside dining experience around your Takibi fire pit. And there's actually more functions than just using this around the fire pit. We're going to get into that later in this video, but first I want to share with you why I ended up picking this table up in the first place and all the thoughts that kind of went through my head before actually getting it. All right, so when I originally picked up my Takibi fire pit, I loved the idea of the Jikaro when I saw it at first, and I thought it would be really practical. I had every reason pretty much to get it. We had a 3-year-old we were camping with at the time, and it was a good safety mechanism. We pretty much had every reason, but we had a couple concerns. One of which we thought it would be, really big and bulky to bring along. Now, keep in mind, I never saw this thing packed up in the store. I just saw it set up like this. And when you see it like this, it's a pretty elaborate looking table system. And the second thing that held me back was I thought it would just add a lot to our setup time. All right, so why did I finally jump the gun and just get the Jikaro? Well, I justified it because honestly, I was really worried about Emmett running around the fire and not having anything around it. And I found that a perfect opportunity to just pick up this table. And let's face it, I really wanted it anyways. After I got it, I realized a couple things. I was completely wrong about setting this thing up. The first time I put this together, I was genuinely impressed with the design of this thing. I was so happy with how simple it was that I was almost thinking back, like, why didn't I just get this sooner? This is way easier than I thought it would be. So the Jikaro is pretty much just a couple pieces. It's just the top tabletop surface and then these legs down here below. And essentially all you're doing is clicking it right into place. And then there's these little thumb screws right underneath that are tucked away, and you just simply tighten it until it's tight and it locks right into place. And there's actually a couple different ways you can assemble this table as well. This is with the large size Takibi fire pit, but if you have the medium size, you can actually turn this into a smaller table by just simply rotating the tabletop pieces around. And you can also use it in that configuration if you have the Giga Lye stove. So I haven't actually used it like that, but it is actually a really cool option if you're not bringing the fire pit with you. But let's face it, you're probably going to be bringing the fire pit with you unless there's, some type of fire restriction. But then you still could bring the fire pit with you and just use propane. All right, so over the years, some of the questions that I've received are, does this tabletop surface, does it get really hot because, it's right next to the fire pit? And that's like a really valid question because if you have a Takibi, this thing puts out some serious heat, and this is a metal tabletop surface. But the answer is no, it doesn't get really hot at all. It's not going to be burning your hands or anything like that. But yeah, I think I really do think it's a good distance away from the fire where, you can still enjoy the warmth of the fire, but you're not, like right up touching it. So you still have like a pretty decent sized distance from it. Now, something you will notice is after having the Takibi going for quite some time, you're going to start seeing some of the ash build up on the table because, you have wood burning, the ash is going to have to go somewhere, and this table happens to be right here next to the fire. So after a long night of Takibi time, you will see some ash on the table, and it's just really easy to just wipe down at the end of the night after you take all your dishes off, or first thing in the morning, and then it's ready to go again. So the Jikaro doesn't really end here. I mean, you can add more table space to this as well and connect an IGT frame. And to do that, you'll need the IGT hooks, and then you could just use 2 of the IGT legs, and those are going to be the 400mm legs. And then you can have essentially a full-on kitchen setup attached to this table. So you'll have nice fireside dining, and then you can have your burners going there. You can have your sink set up, extra table space for prepping food. It would be more of like a complete style, camp kitchen setup. But you could also just, if you're planning on cooking over the fire, I mean, the last trip we went on, we exclusively cooked on the fire. I didn't even bring a stove with us on the trip because I just brought some charcoal and I had the Takibi and I had endless firewood and charcoal because we were at Snow Peak Campfield. And yeah, I mean, I just did all the cooking right over here. I'm using that pan and it was great. But if I was going on a longer trip or if I was making something specific where I needed my stoves and I needed sinks and all that stuff, then yeah, I would probably pair my IGT with this and have that whole setup right off to the side. So something else you're going to notice is there's these little holes throughout the table as well, and there's a lot of different accessories, third party as well, that you can put like lantern hangers. There's all kinds of clever things you can do. And if you want to learn more about that, click down in the description, Snow Peak Addicts Facebook group, because there are a ton of clever people on that group who have all kinds of cool ideas to modulate their Snow Peak gear. Is that a word? Modulate. They do really cool things with their Snow Peak gear, and that's honestly where I get all of my ideas, and I learn so much about just different Snow Peak products and just new stuff coming out. So yeah, check out that group. It's Snow Peak Addicts. I have it linked down in the description. Also, pro tip, when you're putting this thing away, you're gonna wanna make sure that you put the frame in first into the bag and then start putting in the tabletop surfaces. So essentially these legs right here, they actually hold the tabletop in place, and then you can grab it out all at once. And if you try and put it back in like that, I mean, most likely the tabletop surface is, well, not most likely, it happens every time I do it. The tabletop surface is just gonna fly right out of it. So what I found to be the easiest is if you create the structure of the bag already by putting the legs in, and then just, yeah, insert the tabletop surfaces like so, and then it's ready to go. Now the sleeve that it comes with isn't the best. I mean, it works, it holds the table. It's not gonna protect it from scratches or anything like that, so it is gonna get marked up. But I will say, you know, after using this one, it ages really nicely. It's like stainless steel, so it's gonna show some marks over time, but I think it ages really nicely and it looks really good. You could also get the Jikaro firing case if you wanted, and if you knew, for instance, that you're gonna bring extra poles with you, the IGT low legs and stuff like that, you can fit those inside of that case. So yeah, that's pretty much gonna do it for the Jikaro. I mean, this thing is a really versatile table overall, and there's just endless modular ways you can use it. I mean, you can add on to this, make it a full-on kitchen. You could add 2 table extensions if you have a huge group. I've even seen it where people have had 2 Jikaros and tables in between for even larger groups. So, I mean, you can do a lot of different things with these Jikaro tables. And I will say that if you have the Takibi fire pit already, and if you're looking for that fireside gathering experience, and if you're hesitating on, you know, whether this thing is worth bringing along, how much trouble it's gonna be, how big it's gonna be, I will say I had those same thoughts before, and it's one of those things that pretty much goes hand in hand with the Takibi fire pit. And you will find that if you're going, you know, with a family or you're going with your friends, that you will find this such an enjoyable piece of camping gear around that Takibi fire pit, and you're going to find yourself using this more and more every time you're gathering around your fire, because it creates that much more convenience, whether you're cooking your meal on it or just sitting around and just having a place to put your drinks. It just sets the entire ambience, and for me, it makes the Jikaro completely worth it. So yeah, that's pretty much gonna wrap it up for the Jikaro, and I've included links down below in the description, and those are affiliate links, so clicking them and using them really does go a long way towards helping my channel grow. So thank you so much for your support with that. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video. Take care.